Hello, this video will discuss about friendships between planets. Now, why do we need to know which planet is friendly or unfriendly towards the other? Well, the reason is very simple because when we do a chart reading, say for example, we see the Lagna and see the Lagna Lord, we have to be able to say that what planet is giving a good effect or a bad effect to this particular Lagna person. And that can be determined based on whether it is a friend to that Lagna or an enemy to that Lagna. Similarly, if we look at the Rashi, which is the moon sign, we need to know how the other planet is behaving to this particular Rashi Lord. So that also makes it easy for us to do a chart reading, because unless we know whether there is a friendship or enmity between planets, we will not be able to determine whether that particular planet is behaving good for that chart or bad for that chart. Similarly, if a planet is conjunct with another planet, we need to know, well, how are these planets behaving, or what is the relationship between these two planets? Why? Because if they are sitting in one zodiac sign or one house, they will be affecting that house either positively or negatively. So we need to know. Also, in case planets are aspecting each other, then we need to know, well, if the aspect on one planet on the another is good or bad. And that can be determined only if we know if there is friendship or enmity between those two planets. So these are the reasons why we have to know what is the friendship between the planets in a particular chart when we especially do a reading. And as you would have seen in our earlier videos, we discussed the ascendants from Aries through, I think we covered until Aquarius ascendant until now. So you would have seen in these 11 zodiac signs as ascendants, which we discussed as to what planets behave as functional malefic and functional benefic for those planets, for those ascendants. And that can be only determined, as you know, when we know whether those planets are friendly to the Lagna Lord or unfriendly to the Lagna Lord. So these are the various reasons which I just mentioned to you why we need to know friendship between planets, because that will make us understand how those planets are behaving for that particular chart. Now, the above table, which you see on the screen, is a natural friendship chart, wherein you see the planets Sun through Saturn, and we are not taking into consideration Rahu and Ketu, because we know that Rahu and Ketu are generally malefics, and they give malefic effects on pretty much all ascendants, and when they come in conjunction or when they aspect any other planet. So we're not even taking those into consideration. And of course, we discussed in our previous videos that there may be cases where Rahu and Ketu, based on their placement, may give some malefic effects, but as a general rule, we will not even consider that, because they are extreme malefics, and their purpose is to provide malefic effects, and God created them for a purpose anyways. So if we look at Sun here, in the first chart, which talks about the natural friendship, Sun is a friend to Mars, Jupiter, and Moon. It is neutral towards Mercury, and it is an enemy of Venus and Saturn. So this chart will explain what, from a Sun's perspective, he considers a friend, neutral, or enemy. So if you look at here in this chart, Sun considers Mars, Jupiter, and Moon as their friends, and Mercury as neutral. Now, if you look at it carefully, if you go down and see Mercury, Mercury does not look at Sun as neutral. Mercury considers Sun as its friend. So you'll see here in the natural friendship chart that although one planet may consider the other planet as a friend, the other planet may consider it not as a friend but as a neutral. And sometimes in extreme cases you will see that one planet may consider the other planet as neutral in a natural friendship chart, while the other planet considers that planet as an enemy. And the example is here. If you look at Jupiter, Jupiter looks at Venus as its enemy. Look at the enemy column here, and Jupiter is looking at Venus as its enemy. However, if you look at the Venus planet here, it considers Jupiter as neutral. So we have to be very careful as to what planets consider the other as a friend, neutral, or enemy, and vice versa, because it won't be the same relationship. Like another example is that Moon considers nobody as its enemy. So you look at the enemy column under Moon, you will see none. Moon does not consider anybody, any planet rather, as its enemy. However, if you look at Mercury, Mercury considers Moon as its enemy. Isn't that interesting? So we have to be very, very careful. And the second thing is that we have to read the Puranas, because we know, like for example, looking at Moon's enmity with Mercury, Mercury considers Moon as its enemy, and Moon does not consider Mercury as its enemy. And we have read in the Puranas what was the origin of the planet Mercury. And just a quick recall there, that as per the Puranas, we know that Moon seduced Jupiter's wife, and out of their union Mercury was born. So Mercury technically is the son of Moon. So obviously Moon will not consider Mercury as its enemy. However, Mercury is pretty upset about the whole story about his creation and how Moon had seduced his mother. So Mercury considers Moon as its enemy because he holds Moon responsible for what happened and how he was created, and not out of natural wedlock but out of something which may not be considered ethical. So of course Puranas are also going to give us some insight of why planets consider each other as friends, neutrals, or enemies. So this was the chart which describes the natural friendship between planets. Now there is something called a temporary friendship between planets. So here the rule is that planets located in house which is the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 10th, 11th, and 12th from where the planet is placed become temporary friends. So they may not be natural friends, but they may become temporary friends. So we have to look at a planet and see what other planets are located in either 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 10th, 11th, or 12th from it in the birth chart. And those planets will become temporary friends. So they may give benefic effects related to that particular planet. And what are temporary enemies? The planets located in the 1st, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th become temporary enemies to it. So we have to look at the temporary enmity between planets. If we look at a planet and look, oh, okay, the other planet is located in the same house, which is house number 1. That's what house number 1 means. That becomes a temporary enemy. So that's another rule. And also if it's sitting 5th, 6th, 7th, which is right the opposite, or 8th and 9th from it, become from it becomes its temporary enemy. So this described, so first we discussed what is the natural friendship between planets. Then we discussed what is the temporary friendship or temporary enmity between the planets. So based on these two charts or rules, we come to the final conclusion here, which is the 5-point rule for the final conclusion. So here we see friend plus friend becomes a big friend. Friend plus neutral becomes a friend. Friend plus enemy becomes neutral. Enemy plus neutral becomes enemy. And enemy plus enemy, we know, oh boy, that will become a big enemy, and that'll create major problems in the chart. So that's why we have to determine the natural friendship first, then the temporary friendship, and then come to the final conclusion. And that final conclusion is based on this 5-point rule. And then we can determine how those planets are affecting that particular chart. So hopefully you did enjoy this video on friendship between planets, and we will discuss another topic in our next video. Thank you.